Hello, one and all, Dr. Stone, Chapter 203, Missile Heart. And on this channel, I do a whole bunch of theorizing and speculating, and sometimes, just sometimes, it gets a little bit out there, like when I said Luna is secretly the Y-Man's daughter, or how Chelsea's secretly working for the Y-Man, or how the Y-Man is actually an alien trying to hide the Earth from an evil intergalactic empire. But for the most part, I try to keep my theories within the realm of logic and reason, and so I found out the Kingdom of Science was going through the Mediterranean Sea. I wondered if it'd be possible for them to pass through the Suez Canal and basically take that as a shortcut. So they have to go around the Cape of Good Hope all the way around Africa to get their next destination. And that does make a certain amount of sense. I mean, as Chelsea says this chapter, the Suez Canal connects two bodies of water that are at equal elevation, so it's a much, much simpler canal than the Panama Canal, or the Banana Canal, as Stuka calls it. So it'd be much more likely for that to be up and running than it'd be for the Panama Canal to be up and running. But after 3,700 years, without any maintenance, I ultimately concluded it just wasn't possible. There was no way the Suez Canal could be passable, and so they'd have to go a long way around Africa instead. But there's something I failed to take into account when I reasoned that. Ballistic missiles do not care about reasons or logic, they just care about destroying what's in front of them. Yes, because Senku has now made a freaking ballistic missile, which he fired at this very beaver-looking dam. So that happened. Remember when the series first started and Senku struggled to make fire and clothes, and gunpowder was this big, amazing revolution that would change the world? Yeah, well now Senku has ballistic missiles, and he can basically control the entire world. He can rule the world with an iron fist as a militaristic dictator at this point. That is how much freaking firepower he has. Oh, I love you, Senku. I freaking love you. And a lot of people online are complaining, saying, well, I wish that we'd seen more of the rocket being built. I wish we'd seen more of it being put together. And we don't actually need to. All the parts we already had. Every element of this rocket is something Senku already had, has either made in the past or he had access to already. I mean, first off, they were able to guide the missile thanks to the telescope and the hot air balloon they made. And telescopes, that's basically just a lens. And a lens was one of the first things Senku made when he first got to Ishigami Village to cure Suka's fuzzy eye disease, to make it so that she could see the faces of her friends for the first time in her life. And the hot air balloon, Senku made that back when Ryu first showed up, so that they could scout for resources, scout for the oil fields they needed. And it's actually made of recycled materials. You can still see Chelsea's help sign on the side of it. Even though it still really, really looks like it says hell, which, would be very, very terrifying for anyone who spotted this from many, many miles away. Oh, there's a hot air balloon. There must be someone coming to help us, coming to save us. No, it says hell on the side of it. Oh, we should run away. We should definitely run away. And then when it actually came down to the ingredients in the rocket, every one of these is an element of victory for Senku. The rocket itself is symbolic of victory to him. I mean, Senku first made dynamite in the Cave of Miracles and used it to win the war against Tsukasa, to show his superior firepower and force Tsukasa to basically surrender. The wireless controller, that was, what Senku made to control the drone that they used to defeat Ibarra and steal the Medusa from him. And finally, a jet engine, Zeno's jet engine, was created because Senku managed to defeat Zeno, because he managed to win out against him and got Zeno on his side. This entire rocket is a symbol of Senku's various victories, various accomplishments, and everything he's managed to, basically do since waking up in the stone world. And even before that, let's not forget that Senku is an expert on rockets. He first got interested in science when he decided he wanted to go to the moon, and he started studying how to do it, how to make rockets, and that was basically how he spent his entire childhood, just trying time and time again to get a rocket to go up into space. And, eventually he did it, right before he was petrified. I mean, it did blow up, as soon as it got out of the atmosphere, but still managed to, get the little model Senku, model Taiju, model Yuzu up into space. He managed to reach space just a little bit before he was petrified, and now, he's one step closer to doing it in real life. He's made a freaking ballistic missile that he fired at a freaking beaver dam. Seriously, I cannot over-exaggerate how freaking awesome this was and how much sense it makes. How logical it was for Senku to actually be able to do this after everything we've seen up to this point. I mean, science is all about working on, the result of the past. Working off the accomplishments of both yourself and others, and that's what we've seen time and time again in this series. Senku, like I said, started off with fire and clothes and gunpowder, and he's just evolved from every step of the way, finding new ways, new inventions, new things based off what he's already created, and it's led to this. It's led to his ultimate accomplishment, a freaking ballistic missile. Oh, I love you, Senku. I freaking love you. But turns out a lot of people don't love Senku all that much anymore right now, because we see the popularity results on the first page, and Senku has dropped down from first place to second place. Yeah, Jen really took the victory, managing to get 30% more votes than Senku, and 3 times the results of Ryo. Wow, he is popular. He is really, really popular right now. And I'm going to leave a link down below to the other results to the popularity contest, but I do want to mention 1 or 2 right now. Stanley scored 8th, Zeno 9th, and Hyoga 10th, which, fairly impressive, especially because Suka scored 12th. Seriously, Suka didn't make it into the top 10, and Francois was 14th. Kinro is more popular than Francois. Seriously, when was the last time Kinro did anything interesting? I mean, yes, he was in that, big battle to get Joel to the vault so he could petrify everyone, but still, that was like the first time he did anything really since back on Treasure Island, basically. Chelsea's 20th, which, she's new, it makes sense. But Kazuki scored all the way down in 20th place, just 1 place above Magma. Seriously, why do people not love Kazuki? Kazuki's great, he's amazing, I freaking love him. And finally, at the very, very bottom, we have Soyuz at 49th place and Ibarra in 50th place. Seriously, Soyuz only beat Ibarra by 8 votes. If 8 people vote differently, then Soyuz would be less popular than the murder rapist who killed his father. Wow, that's depressing. That is really, really depressing. Anyway, moving on, start of the chapter, we have Senku getting a whole bunch of fluorite, and he built a crane! Good for him! I'm not exactly sure when he had time to build a crane, but I guess, the basic mechanics of it aren't that dissimilar from the rope pulley he made back to cross the Andes Mountains, I guess? I'm not sure about that. Anyway, he has a fluorite, and he managed to use it to make a whole bunch of lenses. And when I first saw this, I was really wondering if he was going to make, just super-powered eyeglasses for Suka, but no, that does not seem to be the case. I don't actually think you can make eyeglasses from fluorite. I'm not sure about that, though. I'm not sure about that. Instead, he used it to make a telescope, which is so powerful he can actually see the moon. They can almost see the craters on the moon with it. So, yeah, that's definitely interesting. It's definitely interesting. I mean, we have seen the moon a lot of times. We've gotten a lot of close-ups of the moon in the series, and we have still yet to see, a giant city on the moon, a crashed alien spaceship, something on the moon, some semblance, some guess of where the Y-Man's located, what exactly his base looks like on the moon, how is he living on the moon, how is he getting, food, resources, all the other fun stuff. I mean, I'm honestly not sure about that. I feel like, sooner or later, Senku's gonna have such a good view of the moon, he'll be able to figure out, okay, where exactly is it we need to land to get close to the Y-Man, because, the moon is fairly large. If they don't know where the Y-Man's actually located, that's going to be rather difficult, but yeah, it's definitely weird. We've yet to see any trace of the Y-Man's activity on the moon, and maybe he's living underground, like there's an underground bunker on the moon. That would make a certain amount of sense. You don't have to worry about, meteorites, asteroids, whatever hitting the moon's surface then, but I'm not sure about that. I'm just really not sure about that. But anyway, then we see the prototype for the rocket they fire later on in the chapter, and it's, fairly small. I mean, it's twice the size of Jen, 3 times the size of Chelsea, but still, it's rather significant. Suka says that she's the only one who could fit in it, and that's actually kind of true. I think Suka could have actually fit in it before her growth spurt, before the time skip, and that's actually really sad. That's really, really sad. That girl was so very, very badly malnourished as a child. I mean, that's utterly, utterly heartbreaking. But I would have absolutely loved to see her actually flying in a missile rocket like this. A tiny one. Oh, that would have been funny. That would have actually been really, really funny. Anyway, though, their next destination is Math City, which is in India. Yeah, I was way, way off. I said Russia or Ukraine. Turns out it's India, so my bad on that. My bad on that. I'm guessing it's going to be a bigger arc than, Spain was, Barcelona was, because there was no fluorite city. It was just, them getting something they needed. But Math City, that's been something that's been on the map for, like 100, 200 chapters at this point. So I'm assuming there is a whole lot they're going to get done in Math City. I mean, there is still a question of what sort of obstacles they may end up having to overcome there. Because right now, I'm not exactly sure what they'd be, other than the fact that I don't think Senku or anyone on the team actually speaks the language of India. Wait, what language do you speak in India? Interesting. Actually turns out that English is a fairly common language in India, thanks to the British East India Company and all the awful, awful things they did there. Yay! Okay, so Senku and the rest of them won't have that much of an issue communicating with people there and, managing to create some sort of agreement with them, so that's good, but still, This is Math City. This is one of the big cities they've been, like I said, teasing for the last 200 chapters. So I feel like there's going to be some sort of obstacle they need to overcome here. The people not trusting them, the people being antagonist against them, something going on, some way where they're not going to trust Senku and the gang, and Senku's going to need to overcome some sort of obstacle to win them over. I'm really not sure what that's going to be. I mean, the theory I had a while back was that, there was actually a city up and running somewhere in the world, somewhere in the big world. I mean, the world's big. Some people are going to wake up, obviously. Maybe not as advanced as Senku is right now, but they were fairly, doing okay for themselves. And, then the Y Man's voice came out, and Senku ended up petrifying them all over again, destroying their civilization all over again, and they're going to be really, really angry at him for that. I mean, that would make a certain amount of sense. Not sure about that, though. And the next page definitely does seem to confirm that, because Ryu says they're burning through fuel far too quickly, and they'll never make it all the way around the Cape of Good Hope and get to India, which means they're going to need to spend a lot of time in India building the fuel back up again before they go to, Papua New Guinea is Rubber City, and Australia is Aluminum City, I think. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So what's going to happen in India? What's going to happen there that's going to cause them to have to stay for long enough to build the fuel back up again? I'm very, very curious about that. Though Chelsea's line afterwards is rather interesting. Honestly, it'd be freakier if science always worked out perfectly every time, which, seriously, when was the last time Senku actually failed at science? When was the last time something blew up in his face? It's been a really, really long time. Usually everything Senku makes works perfectly the first time around. I mean, the best I can think of is, way, way back at the start of the series, Senku failed a whole bunch of times to make pottery that didn't, explode or break apart, or wasn't just completely ugly, and then when it came to glass blowing, he couldn't do that on his own, and he had to get Katsuki's help. I mean, that's the best I can think of, though if you want to go, the other side, we still have the Corn City team who tried to make artificial diamonds and it blew up in their face, quite literally, several times. So, science does end in failure sometimes, just usually not for Senku because he's always so perfect with everything. Even Senku does make mistakes, and it would be interesting to see more of those mistakes, more of his failures. If you can think of any times where Senku's failed, where science hasn't worked out, where things have blown up in his face, please let me know down below. I'm really struggling to remember any time it wasn't just utterly perfect on the first go-around. But anyway, so going through the Suez Canal would cut their journey in half. Instead of 20,000 kilometers, it'd be 9,000 kilometers, and they'd reach India rather quickly. So, yay, let's do that! The only problem is, if the Suez Canal is blocked up at some point, they wouldn't actually be able to turn around in it, and they'd basically be stuck, landlocked, until they could dig themselves out after, a couple weeks or months, because let's not forget, that just happened actually rather recently. A ship got stuck in high winds and went ashore, and as a result, the Suez Canal was blocked up for a very, very long time. That was with, modern technology. They're using excavators and stuff like that. Right now, all they really have is Kohaku, who'd have to dig them out by herself, so yeah, that doesn't really work as a plan at all. So they decided to scout out to see how dammed up it really is, if it is possible to actually pass through it. I absolutely love this shot of them, just flying this hot air balloon like thousands of feet above the ship. Just such a beautiful, beautiful shot. I freaking love Witch's artwork. And as it turns out, there is apparently a beaver dam that's blocking their way, and it's rather interesting. I mean, they basically explain that's like a bunch of trees try to grow up along the shore or whatever, and they died and then very quickly end up, clogging up the pathway, but I don't know, it just feels very, man-made. It doesn't feel like this might have been, done by nature, so I'm curious about that. I mean, obviously, they wouldn't get a good look at it. They're seeing it through a telescope from miles and miles away, so they can't really be sure, but I'm not sure. This feels like something that might end up being something down the road, but maybe not. I mean, maybe the author was just inspired by, like I said, the boat being stuck in the Suez Canal recently and decided to do something with that. I'm not sure. And of course, Kohaku just wants to go in there and, start hitting it with an axe to break them free, but that's not actually, all that good of a plan, because if it turns out they can't actually break through for whatever reason, they're going to be stuck in the Suez Canal and won't be able to go anywhere. They'll just be trapped there for the rest of their lives, or for weeks or months until they manage to, break through it. So they need to basically undam the canal from miles and miles away, and the only way of doing that is with a freaking ballistic missile. Senku built a freaking ballistic missile. Can we please just appreciate this? He made ceramics and glass and pottery in the beginning of the series, and now he's making ballistic missiles. Oh, I love it. I freaking love it. And it's definitely interesting that Senku and Ryu both seem to be controlling it. I don't think it's a matter of range, but more a question of just making sure it's on the right trajectory. Like, Senku guided it off the ship and towards the dam, but then Ryu and Chelsea managed to, point at exactly the location where it needs to go, exactly at the dam, and made it launch right into it. Though I have to say, it doesn't seem like it did too much damage to it. I feel like they're gonna need to do like another ballistic missile, another 2 or 3 ballistic missiles, because that just put like a tiny, tiny hole into it. Though I guess maybe now that there's a hole in it, the water will start flowing through and it'll manage to, break apart the dam, manage to get other trees and whatnot to pass through. I guess that's possible. I guess that's possible. Or maybe next chapter is going to be them making 5, 6, 30 missiles and firing them again and again and again at the dam. I would like to see that. I would very, very much like to see that. And like I said, the dam just feels so very, very natural. I mean, maybe the result of beavers, but I don't actually think beavers live in this area, like, at all. So that seems unlikely. It really makes me think this might be man-made, and if so, is there civilization here? Is there people living here, or were there people living here until Senku petrified them 7 years ago? I'm not sure about that. Yeah, and that's my thoughts on this chapter, more or less. Like I said, next chapter, probably a whole bunch more ballistic missiles fired at this dam, then breaking through, maybe finding some remnants of some civilization that was up and running just a few years ago. And then they're on their way to India. I mean, like I said, it is convenient that India does speak English, but that also might be, a big problem for them because, yeah, the whole, I'm not going to get into it, but the history of the British East India Company is not a good history. It's a very, very bad history. And so the people of India might be very, very hesitant to trust Senku and his gang and just view them as, foreign conquerors here to strip the land of all its resources. And that might actually be the case. I'm not exactly sure what math means. What exactly are they trying to find in the city? I mean, it looks like, robots and computers. So is it going to be, electronics they're looking for, like silicone, whatever, that's needed to make the actual processors and the chips and all that? Or are they actually looking for mathematicians? I have been told there are a lot of very smart mathematicians in India, but I'm not sure about that. That seems like a rather, difficult thing to find. India is a rather large country, and looking for people who are mathematicians would take a very, very long time. So more likely they're looking for computer parts, and they're going to be making computers over the next, couple chapters. I would absolutely freaking love to see that. And, like I said before, I am a computer scientist, a bad one at that, but I am a computer scientist, and I understand the basic elements of how computers work, how they're put together, and just seeing Senku make one from scratch, seeing Senku explain it would be a lot of fun for me. Yeah, I know, I have a weird sense of fun. So yeah, leave thoughts down below. Do you think this dam was man-made? Do you think it was beaver-made? Did beavers move here at some point? Do you think there's something under the dam that's causing it to get blocked up like this? Do you think one ballistic missile was enough, or do you think Senku's gonna have to fire a whole bunch more at them? Also, how long do you think it took Senku to actually build this ballistic missile? Because I feel like that's going to be a rather lengthy process. But, like I said, they didn't actually need to show it because we've seen all the elements. We've seen the dynamite, the wireless fins, the fuel, the jet engine. We've seen all of it before. So seeing Senku build them again would not be all that exciting to watch. It was just basically putting together the pieces of a puzzle. And what do you think is going to happen when they reach India? Like I said, I really think the people in India might be very, very suspicious about Senku and his gang. They have a rather, complicated past when it comes to people coming looking for resources and goods and valuables and stuff like that. So that's that could be interesting. That could be really, really interesting. Link all down below. Be sure to like and subscribe. See you next video. And until then, peace!